to pick up my daughter from daycare, so.
Good evening, everyone. The open meeting law requires that I notify the public that this meeting is recorded. Therefore, please be aware that an audio and visual recording of this meeting is being made by Boston City TV, a part of the City of Boston Office of Cable Communications, and is being broadcast on Xfinity Channel 24, RCN Channel 13, and FiOS Channel 962. This is Andrea again. Just want to let you know, Wes, that I only count 5 members right now, so we are not at quorum yet for votes.
All right. How many members do we need for the quorum?
7.
Okay. I know that Juan Carlos had planned to come.
Yes, hi, I made it here, Wesley.
Oh, okay, sorry. I'm just counting and looking who else is here. All right. Okay, thank you. All right. Are we ready?
Yep, we can dive in whenever you're ready. I believe introductions are the first, so we'll see who's here.
All right, well, I guess I will go first and introduce myself. Hello, my name is Wesley Ireland, and I am the board chair, and I live in the North End. And I would like to ask Olivia to introduce themselves.
Hi, my name's Olivia Richard. I am a member of the board and I live in Brighton.
Thank you, Olivia. Carl, can you go ahead?
Yeah, so my name is Carl Richardson, and I am also a member of the advisory board, and I also live in Brighton, and I'm a member of the deafblind community.
Thank you, Carl. Paul, could you please introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Paul Karen. I serve as the board secretary. I live here in Boston, Massachusetts, and work at the Boston Planning and Development Agency.
Thank you, Paul. Now, Yardley. Excuse the interpreter, Juan Carlos.
Juan Carlos, you may be on mute.
Oh, hi everyone, sorry for that. Yes, my full name is Juan Carlos Ramirez, also advisory board member, and I live in Boston South End.
Thank you, Juan. And who else is here? I think that I've seen everyone and I've caught you. Okay. Thank you. All right, let's get started. We are not going to do the approval of the minutes because we do not have quorum. So we'll go on to the presentations. So I would like to thank Paul for inviting Jillian to speak about the Age Strong. And the floor is yours, Jillian.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Paul, and thank you all for having me. My name is Jillian Quinn. I have a doctorate in clinical psychology, and I work as a psychologist in the Boston area. I live in South Boston, and I work in various clinics around the area. One of the main clinics I work at is a community mental health center called Aspire Health Alliance. And the Aspire Health Alliance is a collection of community mental health centers and programs that are aimed at mental health and wellness of the communities throughout the South Shore and Boston as well. So I thought for today I could go over just some broad info about mental health, really broad, some current statistics on the prevalence of mental illness, some barriers to treatments and receiving services. Please jump in, ask questions as I go. I'd be happy to answer any that I can. Okay, so diving right in to just some overall stats and information. So according to the National Alliance on Mental illness affects millions of people every year. 1 in 5 adults in the US experience mental health issues every year, and half of adults will report at least once in their lifetime experiencing some sort of mental illness or mental health stress. 1 in 20 adults will experience serious mental health issues throughout the year, and in this context, serious meaning a really marked disruption in functioning and impairment in life due to the mental illness. The most common mental health disorders are anxiety disorders first, and depressive disorders are right after. Obviously, suicide is still a big issue. It's the 12th leading cause of death of people in the US. And 80% of people who die by suicide are men. Middle-aged and elderly men are at the highest risk. But there's still a really big imbalance in terms of men are dying by suicide at a much larger rate than women. Research also showed that on average, under 50% of people who reported mental health issues received treatment in a given year. So it's more than half of people who report having mental health issues aren't receiving treatment. And then just beyond the mental and emotional impact of mental health issues, it really has a wide range of effects on physical health as well. Just some examples of how it affects physical health. People with depression are at a 40% higher risk of developing cardiovascular and metabolic disorders than the general population. Mental illness and substance abuse disorders are involved in 1 out of 8 ER visits every year. And mood disorders, which means either depression, bipolar disorder, they are the most common cause of hospitalizations for all people under 45 in the US. So it's a really big amount. And then of course, mental health issues can have a huge impact on social, financial aspects of life. For example, 20% of people experiencing homelessness in the US have serious mental health conditions, and almost 40% of people incarcerated have diagnosed mental health conditions as well. And mental health issues are a huge underlying contributor to substance abuse issues. In terms of COVID, it was really hard on people's mental health as well. The research by the World Health Organization showed that 20% of people polled reported that, in the US, reported that the pandemic had a significant negative impact on their mental health. And in the first year of the COVID pandemic, or at the end of the first year rather, they did research that showed that the prevalence of anxiety and depression disorders increased by 25% globally, which is a huge, huge jump in 1 year. Deaths by overdose also increased that year. There's so many factors that played into that. There were so many stressors involved with the pandemic. Being socially isolated was a huge one. People were isolated from friends and family and just from other people in the community. That was very hard on people. People were worried about being sick. They were worried about their family and loved ones being sick. And then, of course, there were huge financial worries, and there was a lot of job loss, which creates a lot of stress. And on the flip side, when people were the lockdown was lifted and people were reintegrating back into life, there was a lot of anxiety that came along with that as well. So it had a big impact. In terms of more specifics, mental health and people with disabilities, according to research by the CDC, adults with disabilities reported experiencing frequent mental distress at 5 times the rate of general population in certain studies. The studies also found that an estimated 17 million adults in the US with disabilities experienced frequent mental distress. In this context, frequent mental distress was defined as 14 or more mentally unhealthy days out of 30. Frequent mental distress is, really difficult on people. It's associated with lots of other issues such as increased use of health services, chronic disease, just limitations in life. It's really, mental distress is obviously difficult on people. There's also some research suggesting that people with disabilities could be at increased risk of depression. So it's, something to consider. So overall, I know that was a very broad, information, threw a lot of numbers at you, but overall, mental health in general is a really prevalent issue. Pandemic exacerbated it, but it was already, an issue for a lot of people. And more people are reaching out for services, which ultimately is a good thing. But just getting into some barriers and obstacles to treatment right now, because people are reaching out more often, there's become a pretty big supply and demand issue. There's just more people who want services than there are people to provide them right now. Again, a lot of good things go into this. There's been a destigmatization of therapy and mental health. People are more willing to engage in it, which is great. And also because telehealth has really broadened accessibility. You no longer have to take time out of your day to drive to a clinic or to find transportation. You can get services from your home, which is great. A lot of people who maybe wouldn't have before reach out now for services. There just aren't enough therapists, again, to cover the demand. So what's happening is people will reach out and there's wait times, or they aren't able to find any therapists that have availability, and this can be demotivating, and it can lead to people who really need services not getting it. Funding for mental health is still a work in progress. Historically, government, like health spending accounts, only 2% was spent on mental health globally. That's getting a lot better. And just as an example, just this March in the US, a huge spending package on health was passed that contributed millions and millions and millions of extra dollars to all these mental health programs throughout the country. So if that continues, that's going to really reduce a lot of barriers to service. And then another barrier that's really common is just insurance and financial issues. Therapy can be very expensive. It's, oftentimes a weekly service that people want to access weekly, and that can add up. Even people who, feel to have great insurances, they have issues with cost and deductibles. They have issues with finding therapists who are in their network and that kind of thing. And then as far as public insurance, obviously in Massachusetts, MassHealth is a very popular insurance. Just under 2 million people in Massachusetts utilize MassHealth, which is 1 in 4 people in Massachusetts. And more than half of the people in Massachusetts with disabilities utilize MassHealth. And MassHealth is great in many ways. It's a really, really great service and provides a lot of medical services for people who need it. There is some slight setbacks in terms of mental health coverage for MassHealth, which leads to not that many therapists, especially private therapists, taking MassHealth. What ends up happening is the places that you can find therapists who do take MassHealth are community mental health centers like Aspire, the one I work at, which is great. It's a great service, but because of that supply and demand issue, those community mental health centers have like 6 to 12 month wait lists. Ours is closer to 12. So it's kind of leaving, all of millions of people in Massachusetts who have this insurance can only utilize a certain clinic, and then those clinics have 12-month waiting lists. So there's some issues with accessibility and opportunity and who's able to access these services easier than others. So all that being said, there are definitely obstacles, realistic ones that need to be worked out, but finding support for mental health is so important. I would really encourage anyone to themselves or their loved ones to really encourage just being proactive about it and recognizing there might be a little bit of increased effort and patience needed. You might have to reach out to multiple people, put yourself on a bunch of wait lists, but ultimately you'll get off a wait list and it will be worth it. You can also reach out to your whatever insurance you happen to have. They can help you find in-network providers, hopefully, as well. That's one of the services they should offer. I have a resource list that I like to give out to people who are starting the process or just want some extra resources and places to, reach out, some websites and there's also some cool new companies that you reach out to them and then they actually find you a therapist. So you kind of can outsource that work to them, which is really helpful. I would be happy to provide that if people were interested. But again, yeah, it might be difficult at this time. There might be some waits, but I would definitely say it's worth it, and just to be proactive about it and get on wait lists if you can. I know that was a lot. I don't know if anyone has questions or or anything, but that's basically my spiel.
Can I just have a minute, please? This is Wes. I'm just spotlighting the other interpreter. Okay, thank you. Okay, I actually do have a question, but I'll go ahead and let the other folks start by asking their questions. Juan Carlos, why don't you go ahead first?
Oh, hi, Gillian. Thank you so much
Hi.
for talking about this really important topic that is becoming increasingly more, fundamental for and raise the awareness for everyone. I guess my question is if you have a little more comments on the interpreter services for those who perhaps English is not their primary language. If you can comment about the efforts ongoing then. I know there are many events like the Memory Cafe, things like that are ongoing with the Age Strong. Wondering if someone who is not English speaker could go there and just make arrangements to meet other people, just to make sure they can use these services in a different language for the major language at least. So just thinking about that, and again, thank you so much for bringing this to our attention.
Yes, of course, and that's a really good question. I know that insurances are supposed to cover interpreter services for mental health services. I can get way more information on that. I know that a lot of people at Aspire use interpreters and have had to go through insurance to get that service, and I'd be happy to kind of get some info from colleagues who might know a little bit more about it than I do. But I do know that, yes, absolutely through insurance that should be covered, and it should be whatever makes you feel most comfortable. I know that before COVID, people would come into the sessions with you. Now I'm sure telehealth works similarly, but it definitely should be a covered service for mental health.
Thank you, Juan Carlos, for that question, and thank you, Jillian. I think Paul had his hand raised with a question.
Yes, I did. Now with COVID supposedly on the downswing, I don't really see it happening. Do you see mental health patients and issues still as they were during COVID, or are they kind of loosening up a little bit?
Well, it's really interesting.
Cases?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so it was interesting because we saw a really big shift. So once the lockdown started to get lifted, I think, there was an expectation as it was happening. And I'm like, oh, this is so great. People were so anxious and isolated, and now we can go out and do things again. Mm-hmm. And, you can kind of resume normal life. And what ended up happening was, it didn't work out. It wasn't like we got back to normal life overnight or anything. And there was a lot of anxiety that I specifically saw, and I know we talked a lot about this with colleagues, of all of a sudden this anxiety around reintegrating. And people had, for example, social anxiety was huge for a while because people were like, I haven't talked to anybody in person in months, and all of a sudden now I'm around people again, and that was hard for people. And just kind of trying to get back to any sort of normalcy after COVID was hard. I know there was also a lot of difficulties in families and friend groups with the way people handled COVID. There's a lot of issues with that. There was also people who were still and are still worried about it, and and because there's not any, the measures aren't as uniform as they were before. Now there's a little more choice around that causes anxiety as well. So there was a shift, but it wasn't the shift I expected personally at first, and it really was just a shift to different types of anxieties than maybe we saw during lockdown.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
This is Wes here. I had a question. I was just typing it in the chat. Would you mind reading it and from the chat?
Jillian, this is Andrea. Do you have it, or I already have the chat pulled up. Would you like me to read it?
Let's see, I think I have it. So are there any self-care intervention network resources at Aspire for clients and patients looking to find an accountant? That is a great question. And I actually don't know. But I love that idea, and Aspire, what's great about those community mental health centers is there's so many programs, and there are peer support, and there's peer leaders and that kind of thing, but an accountability buddy, like a formal setup of that, I'm not sure, but I can definitely ask about that and get back to you, and if it doesn't exist, I can see what people would think about starting something along those lines, if people would be interested in that.
Yeah, I was just thinking it would be beneficial to a lot of people with disability.
Yeah.
In many aspects, I think a lot of people could benefit from that.
Is there anything specific that could be helpful that I could maybe, talk to supervisors about or something along those lines? All this feedback's always really helpful for us. So any kind of feedback of anything specific with the account would be great that I could bring back to work and ask.
Let me think on it. I didn't really have a clear answer for that. Let me think about it.
Totally fine, yeah.
When I'll come back around to you when I have more of an idea of what the accountability buddy would look like.
Okay,
I'll
sounds great,
find
thank you.
some resources as well and send them off to you.
Awesome, thank you so much.
Any other questions for Jillian? Okay, I looked through the gallery and no one had their hands up. I wanted to thank Jillian for your time, for your presentation, and you're more than welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Thank
All
you.
right, moving on. Next on the agenda, let me look at it. We have the other presenter, Corinne from Age Strong Commission. Corinne White.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Corinne White. Should I start? Good to go? All right.
Yes, if you have the PowerPoint ready, did you want to, I'm not sure how we were going to share that.
Corinne, this is Andrea. I can share if you'd like me to.
That'd be wonderful, Andrea. Thank you. While Andrea's pulling it up, I just wanted to give my gratitude to the Disabilities Commission. You folks have a great team over there. I've worked for the Age Strong Commission now for just over 6 months, and I've already had the pleasure of working with Commissioner McCosh, Andrea, Colleen, Patricia, Sarah, all of whom I see here. So hi, everyone. I will just give you a short background about myself. I studied gerontology in college and have a gerontology degree. I've been doing this work for several years now, coming from a career in the field of aging and previously to my role as the dementia-friendly assistant for the City of Boston and the Age Strong Commission, I worked as a director of a memory care unit. So I am certified. I am a certified dementia practitioner. Next slide, please. So I just wanted to start with some statistics, and then I will definitely get into what my role as working on the Dementia Friendly Initiative means. But for the aging scope, in 2010, there were over 88,000 residents aged 60 plus, and in 2018, 117,000, and by 2030, 130,000. So we can see how rapidly the aging population is growing. Next slide, please. So with the 117,000 residents in Boston, age 60 and over, that is a total of 16.7% of Boston's population. 191,299 Massachusetts residents are living with a cognitive disability, which comprises 4.4% of the state's population. And approximately 26,700 older adults aged 65 and older live with a disability in Boston, which comprises 36% of persons living with a disability in the city. Next slide, please. So I wanted to just give a quick overview for those of you who are not familiar with the general Age Strong Commission services that we offer from the city. We do a lot. There are a lot of departments. We have a advocates team that provides access to information and benefits. So we can provide assistance with federal benefits, with state benefits, and with city benefits. You'll find advocates have a lot of information. They are based upon neighborhood, but they do have all of the information for things such as SNAP and property tax and programs such as that go on within the city. We do outreach and engagement along with with a lot of community events. So hopefully you've seen the Age Strong Commission around the city. We do our own events as well as table at other events, such as the Open Streets events that are going on currently. We help with transportation, whether that is the Age Strong shuttle in and of itself, or taxi coupons, or getting people connected with a transportation option that works for them, the ride, or other programs. We have a volunteer unit. They do a lot. They have work off so that volunteers can get money off of their property taxes. They greet you at City Hall, or they used to pre-COVID. They match seniors with other seniors. They do a Bus Buddies program. So there are a lot of volunteer opportunities for seniors, and there are a lot of seniors that volunteer for the city. We also have a housing unit, which again advocates and assists with housing issues, applications, housing for court advocacy, anyone that needs assistance with housing. And finally, Alzheimer's and caregiver support, which is really where I come in. We do a lot of answering questions about what can I do, what should I do, where can I go, those types of things for people that are living with dementia and other diseases. So most of our services are 60 plus unless you have a disability. We also serve persons that are living with a disability. Next slide, please. So about the Dementia Friendly Initiative, in 2014, Boston signed on to the World Health Organization's network of age-friendly cities, and that is an international initiative. Age-friendly is an international initiative, and it basically means what it sounds like. It is an initiative to make the city a more friendly, inclusive, respectful, comfortable place for older adults, and therefore everyone. And we signed on to become dementia friendly in 2015. We have an action plan as an age-friendly initiative for the city. We have completed that and are moving into our next phase, and dementia is a focus area along with economic security for the next phase. And the city hosts age and dementia friendly trainings. Many of our city commissions have been trained to recognize signs of cognitive impairment, and I, along with my coworkers, offer some other specialized training dependent on the type of business or the interests that an organization might have related to this work. We do have, as you can hopefully see a little bit in that picture, we have an age and dementia friendly business checklist. So there are several businesses which are listed on the Age Strong Commission's website that have become age and dementia friendly based on guidelines that are listed in the checklist. Things like making sure there's wayfinding, handrails, elevator access, accessible bathrooms, walkways, etc. And then employee training. So, next slide, please. So our work really relates a lot to the Disabilities Commission work, and I am grateful to be here today because I feel that's a great partnership between our commissions. So I'm a big believer that advocacy starts with education. So I'm just going to give a little overview of dementia, which is, again, my specialty at the Age Strong Commission. So dementia is an umbrella term that includes many diagnoses, and it's not a normal part of aging. 1 in 9 adults age 65, as well as a smaller number of people younger than the age 65, develop dementia. More than half of people with dementia have not been diagnosed, and there's no easy way to tell if a person has dementia. Alzheimer's is the 6th largest cause of death in America, and there is no cure. 6.5 million Americans have Alzheimer's disease, and approximately 15,000 residents in Boston are living with the disease. The total estimated number of Massachusetts residents age 65 plus living with Alzheimer's or dementia was 130,000 in 2020. This number is projected to increase by over 15% to 150,000 in 2025. So I don't know how familiar people are with those numbers, but that is quite a big chunk of the population, considering it's not a normal part of aging, and definitely cognitive disability is important to include. Next slide, please. So here are some 10 warning signs of dementia from the Alzheimer's Association. I'm just gonna go through them quickly, but again, I think education is important for advocacy, so I just wanted to make sure that they were included in my slides today. So signs of dementia: memory loss that disrupts daily life. This really means not like forgetting where you put down your keys 5 minutes ago, but really like forgetting what your keys are used for. So that would be the difference. Challenges in planning and problem solving, if you're forgetting appointments, and stuff like that. Difficulty completing familiar tasks, tying shoes, cooking meals, stuff like that. Confusion with time or place. A lot of times people will have disorientation about realizing that it is a heat wave and might try to go out with a jacket, that type of thing. Difficulty with visual images and spatial relationships. As a person progresses in dementia disease, they will lose visual sight. So you might recognize people start to walk into a kitchen table that's always been in the same spot just because spatial perception has been affected. New problems with words in speech and writing. So again, we're not talking about forgetting someone's name that we just met. It's more, forgetting the word for a common thing, like a banana or something like that. Or writing, which they lose their train of thought, or just their writing becomes noticeably less clear. Misplacing things or the inability to retrace steps to find items. Again, this would be something like if you don't put your wallet down in the same spot when you get home and your partner finds it in the refrigerator. Or something like you don't put it in the normal spot, and you just really can't think back to when you got home, you immediately went to the kitchen and you can't think that was what you did, so you're just switching all over the place for it. Poor judgment. A lot of times this comes up clearly in driving. People will have difficulty driving directional or putting the car in driver reverse, stuff like Withdrawal from work or social activities, this is a tough one. Jillian just went over many mental health issues related to COVID and withdrawal from social activity. But this would appear more in terms of just not wanting to go to a common hobby or event just because the person might fear that their language isn't as good as it used to be, or they might forget someone in their group that they should know, stuff like that. And then finally, changes in mood and personality. Again, this one would be more noticeable than usual. So thank you. Next slide. So the 6 pillars of brain health, going from doom and gloom to stuff that is actionable and exciting. These are what are advertised, if you will, to keep your brain healthy and active. Being social, as we've learned through COVID, is a big one. Keeping in touch with family and friends, not getting isolated, doing however we can be social is worth it. Engaging your brain, finding ways to stimulate your thinking, learning a new language, exploring new hobbies, managing stress by practicing relaxation, having a stable schedule, writing stuff down, ongoing exercise, making sure you move throughout the day, moderate physical activity, however that works for you. As long as you can get your heart rate up a little bit, it's good for the brain. Restorative sleep, 7 to 8 hours of restful sleep every day is also important. That's when our brain recharges. And finally, eating right, choosing a nutritious, heart-healthy diet. We are what we eat. So next slide, please. Okay, and finally, this is a slide of some of the things that I've been working on in the community. I have made memory kits in partnership with the Roslindale branch of the Boston Public Library. These kits are activities for people living with cognitive impairment and their care partner. They work just like a library resource. They can be checked out and then kept for 2 weeks to engage with the activities that are inside of them. They include library resources as well as stimulating activity, and then some resources for the caregiver. At the moment, they're only available at the Roslindale Public Library, but I hope to expand them to all branches. And we right now only have 3, but are considering and will produce kits in other languages. I know Juan Carlos asked that question, so I want to make sure that everyone is included, especially because the Hispanic population in Boston have the highest rate of dementia. And same with the Memory Cafe. I do host a Memory Cafe 1 time per month at Codman Square Library. Dorchester, also in Boston, has the highest proportion of people living with dementia. So that's why it's the first location, but I am hoping to get other locations. This Memory Cafe specifically is bilingual with Spanish, but again, as the city expands on these programs, we will also expand our reach to populations that would benefit and are in need of these types of services. I've hosted some dementia-friendly events. The next one that the city will be participating in is the Walk to End Alzheimer's Disease in October, so keep an eye out for that. I have plenty of resources. I welcome anyone that knows someone or is struggling with memory impairment to reach out. I'm happy to help in any way that I can, and I can do some health insurance counseling for people who are living with cognitive impairment and their care partners. So those are some of the things that I'm working on in the community. Again, I'm available to anyone at any time with any questions about dementia or anything that's going on at the H Strong Commission, and my contact information is there. And I think that's the end of my presentation. If anyone has any questions or comments.
Could we close this slideshow? Great. Any questions for Corinne? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, this is Olivia. I was wondering, what resources are available other than North Star for folks who wander and have dementia?
That's a good question, Olivia. Thanks for asking. There are a lot of devices now. Sometimes they call them germ technology for wandering. I think the unfortunate part is that they're often very expensive. So it's not suitable for some people that have financial insecurity. There's a program through, I think it's called Silver Alert. I'll have to get back to you on the name of it, but it's actually through the Boston Police Department. You can call and get signed up for this program, and the Boston Police Department will sponsor it. And it's specifically for adults who wander within the city of Boston.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board?
You're muted, Jenna.
Thank you, Corinne. Thank you for your time. And now it's time for the chair's report.
This is Andrea. While Wes is pulling that up, I just want to note that I put Corinne's contact information in the chat if anyone wants to reach out for more information with those resources.
Hold on, Andrea. I don't think Wes sees one of the interpreters. We just want to let him know that we're switching. Give him a second just to spot it.
This is Andrea. He should have ability to multi-pin, but I can check that if he doesn't. Or Wes,
Okay.
I don't know if you can. Yeah, you see everyone. Great.
Esther. Okay, and I see the contact information in the chat. Great. Okay, thank you, Andrea. Okay, so am I good to give the chairman's report now? Okay. Let me pull it up. Sorry, just a minute. Sorry, I just have too many windows open. Okay, I'm here now. I had 4 things I wanted to mention during the chair's report. The rescheduling of the ADA Day event, that will be coming on August 31st. That's next Wednesday. It'll be outside of City Hall. It's a free event. There will be free food, music, and a resource fair, t-shirts, and bring your friends, get ready to have some fun. The second item is about the local article written about the airlines mishandling wheelchairs each year. And they're either damaged or lost in transit. This is an issue that disability rights advocates have been raising the alarm on for years. Andrea plans to reach out to Massport for a thorough review of their operating procedure system when it comes to helping people with disabilities at Logan Airport. And we hope to have them come and give a presentation at a future advisory council board meeting. Third item on the agenda, Deaf Inc., a local nonprofit agency, will be celebrating their 45 years this October. It's going to be virtual. It's a virtual gala, and the keynote speaker will be Troy Kotsur, Kotsur, who won the 2022 Oscars for Best Supporting Actor. And many folks are really thrilled and excited about this event. The details will be coming in the next e-newsletter, the Disability e-newsletter. And fourth item, the Cambridges are coming to Boston. Prince William and his wife Kate will be coming in December to present some awards related to the global environment. The reason why I'm even bringing this up is because they have connections to the disability community. For example, William and his brother Harry are advocates for mental health issues. We had a presentation related to mental health here from Aspire Alliance Health, and they come from a family history of disabilities. That completes my chairman's report, unless there were any questions.
Yes, I have a question regarding Dr. Quinn's contact information for the board and the public. If it's okay, would we also put that in the chat?
Yes. Let me figure out how to do that. Would you want email and number?
Or maybe just send it to Commissioner McCosh and she could post it?
Okay, yeah. How about I do that just so
Great.
it's correct?
Thank
Definitely.
you.
Sure, thanks, Paul.
Okay, was there anything in response to the chairman's report? Okay. So now we will have the board member spotlight. Juan Carlos, I don't know if you're still here.
I'm here.
Okay, take it away.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Again, my full name is Juan Carlos Ramirez Tapia. I'm originally from Peru and came to Boston around 2002, so it's been a lot of years since I lived in this great city. Compared to Peru, it's very accessible, and I loved it because since I started living here, I was really able to have an independent lifestyle. Again, myself, I use a wheelchair for my mobility due to a spinal cord injury that I sustained when I was a kid. My education background is related to biology and chemistry. My master's is in bioinformatics, so I was using a lot of computer science to do analytics. Currently, I'm working at Massachusetts General Hospital as a senior health data analyst. Perhaps one of the highlights in this role was that I was part of a team where we helped running a lot of hospital capacity reports during the COVID pandemic. That was something that was super helpful for them. I'm very proud of that job. Previous places where I worked are, for example, also at MGH as a data analyst for the healthcare inclusion program, and perhaps this is a little more relevant for our group because it was a program designed for patients with developmental disorders. Most of my efforts here were related to assisting the patient navigator to use the existing data of the hospital to evaluate the trajectories of this patient population around the hospital. The idea of using that is to facilitate the patient navigator and allowing her to anticipate and customize the patient needs before or during the patient's arrival. So each hospital service could be ready when they come. As you can imagine, this patient population, they require a lot of attention, and sometimes, although it may be something very simple, it may take a lot of resources in a very heavy or busy location as it is in Boston, Massachusetts, Mass General Hospital. Also, some of my works before was related to as project coordinator in the Department of Public Health, in the Office of Statistics and Evaluation. This was part of the Bureau of Substance Addiction Services. I think I was always around Boston trying to do my work around the hospitals, also part of Boston Medical Center and the School of Medicine Department at Boston University. I guess other accomplishments, or at least other things that I like to do is, other than volunteering here and participating in the Disability Commission, I'm also assisting the Boston Self-Help Center to advocate adaptive sports for persons with disabilities. Some of you may know, I've become a player of the Boston Breakers Power Soccer Club. It's sponsored by this Boston Self-Help Center nonprofit, and I try to just have fun with a lot of folks there and try to also collaborate with some volunteers to assist players, facilitate other communication matters for the team. So again, just to wrap up, the neighborhood I live is Boston South End. As you can tell, I'm passionate about science and outdoor activities. I really enjoy practicing soccer with everyone. And we travel to tournaments whenever there is a chance to become more competitive. Through this means everyone is welcome to join us. If you know someone who may want to participate, feel free to get in touch. If there is anything I said and was interesting to you, happy to share additional info on that. So yeah, thank you, Wesley, for allowing me to share a little bit about myself here.
Thank you, Juan Carlos. I'm really happy that you were able to have the spotlight on you for this month. Thank you. Okay, and now we're going to move on in the agenda to the commissioner's report, and we're going to Commissioner McCosh, and we're going to switch interpreters as well.
Great, thanks, Wes. Andrea, can you pull up my slide deck? Great. Good evening, everybody. I'm glad to see you all here. So I have some updates, and then we also have some important information about the Orange Line closure. So first, I'll start with some upcoming events. As Wesley mentioned, our ADA Day celebration has been moved to next week. It was originally scheduled for July, but we had to change dates because of the heat emergency. So it's going to be on Wednesday, August 31st, next Wednesday from 12 to 2 on City Hall Plaza. Unfortunately, we can't use the new section of the plaza that's all ADA compliant. It's not quite finished with construction yet. So we're going to be located over in the patios area, which, if you know the plaza at all, it's on the side. If you're facing the building from Tremont Street, the front door of the building on the plaza, it's to the right side near the Bill Russell statue. It's called the patios area, and we'll be set up there. We'll have information tables, food, music, t-shirts. So it should be a great celebration, so I welcome everybody to come. We'll be honoring this year the Public Facilities Department for their work on the plaza. So we'll be presenting them with a proclamation and congratulating them on a great job. And the consultants who worked on the renovations is called Sasaki, and they are doing a little piece on the plaza to promote the work that they did. So I'm gonna do an interview with them tomorrow just to talk about my history in the office and the work that I've done consulting on the plaza with our internal allies and also with our external partners. And they're also interested in interviewing some board members. So if any of you have time tomorrow afternoon, shoot me an email, let me know. It could just be like a Zoom interview, just for a few minutes to get your input on what you thought of the plaza before, what input you've given, and what you think of the upcoming unveiling of the new renovations. So another upcoming event is Civic Engagement Day. We used to hold this event every year pre-COVID, so we're bringing it back this year on Tuesday, September 27th in the afternoon. We don't have the hours specified yet, but this is basically an open house on the 5th floor of Boston City Hall. We set up information tables in the hallways with different departments who help residents and citizens get involved in civic activities. Things like the Elections Commission, you can register to vote. You can see the AutoMark machine, try it out to see if it would work for you. You can meet your city councilor, staff, your liaison from the Office of Neighborhood Services, and usually we hear a few words from the mayor. You'll also get to see the renovated city council chamber, learn how to testify at a hearing, and just be welcomed into the new accessible civic space that is Boston City Hall. So stay tuned for more information on that. Other events coming up, the Equity and Inclusion Cabinet is holding a series of community resource and job fairs. They've already had one. One was canceled, and they have two coming up, one in September and one in October. So we'll be sending email information out in our weekly newsletter. If anyone hasn't signed up for our newsletter, be sure that you go on our website and sign up, because we have a lot of information that we send out every week. So stay tuned for more info on that. And we'll go to the next page. A few other important dates and announcements really having to do with elections. So we know that there are some big races this year, the governor, the attorney general, lots of important races to weigh in on and exercise your right to vote. So again, we'll have early voting in Boston. It begins on August 27th for the primary and on October 27th for the general election. Voter registration deadlines are August 27th and October 29th. So if you haven't registered to vote, you should do that soon. And you can find out more information at boston.gov/elections. And we can put that in the chat. The election dates this year, the primary is September 6th, and the general election is, an update that date of the general election. Maybe Andrea can look that up and we can update it in the chat. But
It's the first Tuesday in November, whatever that is.
Yep, first Tuesday in November. And the City of Boston also will have accessible online electronic voting this year. If you remember, we instituted this 2 years ago so that people who have visual and print disabilities can vote by mail in an accessible way. They can, instead of having to print out an absentee ballot and fill it out, if they have difficulty doing that, they can fill it out right online and submit it electronically. So we can send out more information on that in the next few weeks. And we'll go to the next slide. Updates on a few other initiatives we're working on. We've been telling you for months about our bicycle awareness campaign to raise awareness in the bike community of people with disabilities. So we've been working on with our consultants, and I know a lot of you have participated in focus groups and photo shoots, so we appreciate that. We'll be launching the first piece of the campaign soon, and this is especially important now because all the colleges are coming back. We know a lot of students bike around the city, and with the Orange Line closure, Blue Bikes has offered a free 30-day pass, so there are more bikes on the streets than ever. We've also designated new bike lanes, and temporarily and permanently. So there's a lot of focus on bikes right now, and we want to make sure that we call attention to people with disabilities on the streets and sidewalks for safety. Public Schools has a recruitment initiative underway. They have a lot of job openings. They're asking people to visit their link to apply. They're hiring everyone from teachers to paraprofessionals to lunch monitors, custodial staff, lots of other jobs. So if you know anybody who's interested, please spread the word. It's an urgent request because school kicks off in 2 weeks and they want to fill some jobs before then. The city again is doing Open Newbury Streets this year. It's going to be every Sunday through September 25th. And it's a great day where you can come out, do some shopping and dining, and walk along the street with no worries about car traffic. And then finally, the Boston Disability Commission Advisory Board, we've been working with the mayor's office and our other internal partners to get the vacancies on the board filled. So we'll be announcing those appointments very soon. And we'll go to the next slide. Okay, so my final update is on the Orange Line closure. I'm sure you all are aware that the Orange Line stations are all closed through September 19th. The T has shuttle buses connecting riders to different stations on the Orange Line. Passengers can ride the commuter rail at no cost using their Charlie card or their TAP pass. The latest information is available at boston.gov/orangeline. And this is a very brief update, I understand that, but I'm just going to give you the basics and then open it up for questions. So accessibility of the diversions has been a big issue. I can let everybody know that all the shuttle buses are accessible. Mainly they're the high coach buses with mechanical lifts. There are some which are the buses with a lower floor and a fold-out ramp, but mainly they have the mechanical lifts in the back. There are also accessible vans that will transport people with disabilities upon request. You can just ask the T ambassador at any stop that you're at, any shuttle bus stop. You can request an accessible van and one will be sent out to that stop. My office is working closely with the Boston Transportation Department, Public Works, and the Office of System-Wide Access. We're coordinating everything from looking for accessible spaces for the shuttle buses to stop at, to making sure that drivers are trained, the coach drivers know how to use the lifts and know that they are supposed to pick up people with disabilities. They don't have to send them off to the van, that it's an integrated system, and everybody is welcome to use the bus. Our work will be continuing throughout the shutdown, so if you hear of any issues, you can report them to the MBTA customer service line, or you can call our office. They really want to hear feedback, especially in the beginning, so they can fix these problems before they go on too long. And we did create an accessibility guide for the shutdown. It's linked here, and you can also access it at boston.gov/orangeline. So that's it for my report. We can pull down the slides, and if anybody has questions, I'm happy to take them. And other people on the call may know more than I do about the Orange Line shutdown. I know, Jerry, you're involved with RTAG, and I see Christopher Hart is here. So if anyone has questions or comments, I open the floor up.
Go ahead, Jerry.
Yes, unfortunately, I don't have much more information than you, Commissioner, on the accessibility of the accessibility options available. And I haven't had the opportunity to try using those yet, but I will be next week, most likely, to the ADA event. So I'll definitely be ready to give first feedback at that point or after that point. It was good to hear that you talk about the types of access to the shuttle buses, because I was curious myself. I didn't know if they had the lower floors or the lifts in the back. I suspected that most of them looked like they had the lifts in the back, but wasn't sure on that, and I'm sure Chris will weigh in where he can. I do know that there was an RTAG general meeting, and which will be a large focus of the meeting will be learned from it'll be tomorrow. I believe it's at 5 again. Folks can sign up on the T website and participate in that meeting. If the time is different, I'll get it, before the end of the meeting and let the folks know. I did have a question, if I may. You said last month when the event was originally scheduled, you had said that board members would have the opportunity to to tour the renovations. It doesn't sound like from your report that we're gonna have that same opportunity this time. Do you know if that's gonna be rescheduled and we'll have an opportunity at some point to do that?
Yes, I didn't put it in the report because I haven't confirmed it, but we will reschedule that for the same day.
Oh, so it will be next week?
It should be, yeah.
All right, so just let us know when that will be. I'll try to make myself available to participate. Again, if it struggles, it's gonna be there at a decent time. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions for the commissioner? Thank you, Commissioner, for your report. Oh, I'm sorry, Olivia, go ahead. Please, go ahead.
I heard that the ride, if you're within 3/4 of a mile, both pickup and drop off of an Orange Line stop, the ride won't charge you. Is that true?
I believe so. Olivia, I believe so.
Yes, that's the information that we have too.
Excellent.
Yes. Chris, did you want to add anything?
So, I would just say that we have already received anecdotal reports of issues with risks not working, with bus drivers not being familiar with how to operate a lift, as well as encouraging people not to use the bus, but instead use the van. So if any of you have issues or you know other people, we need the bus number and the time and location that the issue occurred. So that's, and you would see on the front of the bus a orange line style sign and a BTA number. So that will identify who that driver is and what the vehicle is. And that way we can track it down. But really keep using the cell and keep either put it out on Twitter or email us at SWA or call us. I think most of you guys have our personal cell phones as well as our work numbers. So please just let us know if there are issues you want to know. We are out every day almost doing trips to our own checking system. I'll be out tomorrow trying the system and see what I break. And I know I will break a record too. So, go to the territory. It's going to take just, I'm guessing it's going to take us very much of a week to have enough complaints to really show a pattern of practice. Yeah, but we just can't keep after it.
Yeah, Chris.
So, and lastly, I will just say that thank you Commissioner Clark for your work on the Beach Street stop issue. Hopefully we'll get that resolved tomorrow. I hope.
Thanks, Chris. So, I mean, as you can all imagine, we have so many challenges in the city. Along with the T, we had to create bus stops where they don't usually exist. So some of the issues that we've run into are that the sidewalks are too narrow to actually deploy the lift and have enough room for someone in their chair to back onto the lift. So we've had to make some adjustments, like Chris mentioned, the Green Street stop. So we're working on that, but more than anything, like Chris said, make sure that you report any complaints that you hear. Some of the challenges are just going to be baked in, and we'll have to deal with them. Like anyone who's ever been on a coach bus with a mechanical lift knows the nightmare of it. Like even when they work, they're not fun. They go up really high. They seem to go up like 6 or 7 feet off the ground. Like Chris said, they inevitably break, usually when we're sitting on them. So they're just not a good experience. But unfortunately, with the amount of capacity that the T needed for buses, it was the only choice they had. I'm glad to hear that the T is working on training the subcontractors, because we definitely don't want them to bypass people on the street who are waiting for the bus. The bus is open to people with disabilities. That's the message we're spreading, and it should be an integrated system. I know that's the T's goal, but getting that message to trickle down to 150 subcontractors is a big task. So I know the T's working on it, we're working on it, but stay in touch with us about any issues that you experience. And I think that's it for me.
Thank you. This is Wes. So we can continue on with the agenda. Next on the agenda is the architectural access update from Patricia. Do you have anything to update us on?
Yes. Hey everyone, can you hear me okay? My name is Patricia Mendez, and I'm the Director of Architectural Access. My update is very short today. I just wanted to mention the invitation for training for the Advanced Community Access Monitor training for Boston. I emailed you the invitation a couple of weeks ago, and all you need to do to sign up is email Ashley Santana. And if you have any questions, you can ask Ashley or ask me. Just as a reminder, it's going to be over Zoom, and it's going to be on Tuesday, November 8th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. And this is for people who already took the first portion of the
time again, Patricia?
Tuesday, November 8th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. And this is the second portion. So the people that took it last year are qualified to take this advanced CAM training, Community Access Monitor training. And thank you very much. Do you have any questions on that?
Just taking a moment to switch interpreters. Thank you, Patricia.
You're welcome.
This is Wes speaking. Okay, we are on to the announcements portion. Does anyone have announcements to share? No announcements, it seems. Okay, that's fine. We can move on then to old business. Old business relating to the remote access to public meetings advocacy. I know we briefly talked about this last board meeting. We plan to have an open letter, to draft an open letter. And then we wanted to get more information about the Attorney General's office. I believe they were working on that a few years ago before the pandemic. And I think the email was already sent, right, Andrea? Do you recall?
This is Andrea. I have not distributed anything on behalf of the board. Did Carl hop off? Because I know Carl had an update. And then I think we've lost him. Okay, so I can find, if you would like, I can find the email from Carl where he mentioned having spoken with the AG's office, if that would help.
Yes, yep.
Great.
That would be great.
So,
if you could just even briefly give an overview of what the email entailed.
Yeah, so from our discussion last month, we wanted some clarity on the existing, or the board, I should say, not we. The board wanted clarity on existing laws related to remote access before moving on to any next steps of advocacy. And so Carl checked with the Attorney General's office. The emergency provisions of the open meeting law that were put in place for COVID-19, which allow for remote access, have been extended until March 2023. After that, it will be up to the meeting provider if they want to allow for multiple ways of access. They will have to provide a physical, accessible place to host the meeting, but do not have to give virtual access if they do not want to. They can, but it will be up to the meeting provider. It would take legislative action to change this, and apparently there is a Representative Cabral, who will be introducing a new bill in the next session of the legislature, which starts in January, that would address this issue. So if the board wished to write a letter to that representative or to any other representatives or to the mayor expressing support for that change, that would be sort of the question on the board. One piece not in Carl's letter, but that I want to clarify, disability commissions already have the ability to meet remotely, but they're the only public meetings that have this. That's why Carl wanted to clarify with the board, or with the Attorney General. Right now, other public meetings.
That's correct, right.
Yeah, so like historical landmark commissions, city councils, for example, right now are only even allowed to offer remote access under COVID rules. After March 2023, they won't be required to, they'll be allowed to.
This is Wes. I'd like to add something to about the Attorney General's office, that they pretty much, they were working on this previously, the Attorney General's office, Attorney General Carly, and I'm not sure exactly what happened with that. Healy, sorry. I'm not sure exactly what happened with what they were working on previous to the pandemic. So, any questions about this old business item?
This is Andrea. Per the meeting notes from last month, we did not take a vote on whether or not we want to write such an advocacy letter. So if the board wants to, it would need a vote. While Jerry did join us, bringing the number of board members up to 6, that is not 7.
Right, okay. So I would like to make a motion that we hold this for next month's meeting, and hopefully by then we get more information we, cover some of the missing information that we have right now. Hopefully we can get some more information before the next meeting. Jerry, go ahead.
Just in terms of old business, I remember last month that that we put forth a letter to the mayor in regards to the outdoor dining and provisions we'd like to see, in the permanent outdoor dining plan. I just want to confirm that that letter did go to the appropriate staff, and I wanted to see if there was any feedback.
Hi, Jerry, this is Andrea. Thank you for asking that question. I did deliver a letter to the mayor's office and shared a copy of it with the outdoor dining team, which is an interdepartmental team. Given that shortly after this, the Orange Line closure was announced, that outdoor dining team has not met since the announcement was made. It's a lot of the same departments that have been all hands on deck for the closure. So they haven't met yet to give me any feedback. But I will happily report to you once they do. But I did deliver it to the mayor's office and to the outdoor dining team.
Thanks so much. I trust very much that you'll keep on it. So thank you.
This is Wes. I'm hoping they'll respond at some point, but do you have any idea of the timeline, Andrea?
I could guesstimate one, but it would be not a very scientific guess. Assuming the 30 days shutdown is 30 days, I would think it would be sooner rather than later. So I think a lot of it depends on the Orange Line going according to plan.
Right. Okay, thank you for that. Any other questions about the outdoor dining program? Or any other old business items?
This is Andrea. I just want to note Carl has rejoined us. So although we don't have a quorum for a vote, Wes, if you wanted to ask him for any additional insight on his conversation with the AG's office about remote meeting, I wanted to let you know he's back.
Oh. Carl, if you're there, I'm trying to remember about the email that you sent to the Attorney General's office and about that discussion you had with them. Did you have anything you wanted to share? Carl, you may be muted. Okay. Well,
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I apologize.
Yes.
I apologize. I'm dealing with some family personal matters at the same time. So regarding the open meeting laws, which is what you were asking me about, as of now, the Disability Commission, this does not really impact Disability Commission. They can still choose to meet virtually. However, open meeting laws pertaining to all other government meetings, town meetings, city meetings, state meetings, can only choose to meet virtually until March of 2023 due to the emergency thing that Governor Baker put in due to COVID, which goes away then. After that, the government entities have to meet in a public space which is accessible, and if they do not want to meet virtually, they do not have to. However, the disability community has found that it has many advantages to meeting virtually, so the only way we could change this would be to do it legally. There was a bill last session that just ended a few weeks ago about making this permanent, but for some reason it did not pass. And my understanding is that was due to many municipalities, towns and municipalities putting up objection to it because they were worried they didn't have broadband capability and things like that. So it is my understanding that Representative Cabral, C-A-B-R-A-L, will be reintroducing the bill in January with the new legislative session. And I suggest that the Boston Disability Commission write a letter to the representative in that committee. We don't know which committee it'll be assigned to, but I can keep track of that we support this and we would like the ability for open meeting laws to have a virtual component as a reasonable accommodation to the disability community at large.
So again, Carl, then you're saying it should be a reasonable accommodation for all public meetings for the entire state? Would that be the goal? Okay.
Yeah, this is called, yeah. Or towns and municipalities, the open meeting laws apply to any Title II entity within the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So that would be state and local government. And right now, when that emergency stipulation goes away, disability commission will be the only one that can still choose to have a virtual component if they want to. Otherwise, all the meetings will have to meet in a physical space that is accessible, and if they don't want to have a virtual component, they do not have to.
Right, so this is Wes. Wes here. I think we have to think about the future. What if people with disabilities want to join other open meetings? They want to join other commissions? We need accommodations ready for them. Right? So I think it is an important issue for us to, write a letter for the benefit for all people with disabilities as an accommodation. Right, Andrea, that article, thank you for sharing, Andrea. I completely forgot about that one.
No worries, you sent it to me, I do believe, or sent it to us, so I just wanted to make sure it got shared with the team. Again, we don't have a quorum for a vote on writing that letter, but for thinking about it, if someone who wants to think about it from between now and next month, we can certainly do that.
Right, this is Wes. Wes here. I would like to suggest that we have an open letter drafted and we can review it and have it ready for review at the next month's meeting, and hopefully we have quorum by then.
This is Carl. We have some time because a new bill will not be introduced at the very earliest until January, and then it won't be assigned to committee and probably a hearing date until March. So I don't mind having a letter ready by next month, but we do have some time, and perhaps if we wait a little more longer, we'll have some more information, such as the docket number and other things. So that's just something to think of.
Okay. So I just had a question then. I have a better understanding now of what we need to do, but what missing information do we need in order to add it to the letter?
This is Carl. As of now, there is no bill. So I would just suggest that we could do a preliminary rough draft of the letter and then await for it to become a bill and assign the committee, and then we can go out to all the committee members.
Okay. Oh, and I think we'll set it up through Google link. Sorry, I think the interpreter does the interpreter have an echo? So it would be great if we could get the docket number. We can make the document through Google Docs, and we can have a link that we share between us, and then we can all make edits if we want to the document through Google Docs.
And this is Carl. In the meantime, I will reach out to the representative A to see what kind of language that we should use to support the bill.
Okay. Thank you. Jerry has your hand raised. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just in a second, Carl and you have recommended. I think we can always draft it ready, have it ready to be approved, edited, whatnot, and when we get the document information, we can send it right away. That way, it won't delay. I think this is an extremely important issue. I think all public meetings should be more accessible to folks with disabilities. I think during the pandemic, it has shown having virtual meetings has allowed more people with disabilities to participate, to become civically engaged, and we don't want that to backslide. We want more people to participate, not less. And we certainly don't want people not to participate due to access. So.
Yeah, exactly. That should be, part of the letter, that verbiage, I think. Any other comments before we move on to the next agenda item? Great, thank you. I think we've got something planned then before next month's meeting. Thank you, Carl, for your willingness to create that draft for us. Okay, we are on to new business. Do we have any new business items to discuss? If there's all silence, I will assume there's nothing to add there. Therefore, we can move on to public input. Does anyone from the public want to say something at this point? Have questions, concerns? The floor is open to you now, to the public. Okay. Carl, did you have something you wanted to say?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Who would like to second the motion? Olivia, you have your hand raised. Great.
I second.
All in favor then?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Great. The motion carries. The meeting is adjourned at 7:10. Have a good evening and enjoy the rest of your summer. We will see you all next month. Bye for now.